What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees with my friend and co-host Sam, and we talked about this last week. We were like, hey, coming into this weekend, coming into our first road trip, Giancarlo Stanton's going to need to have a big weekend, right? He's going to need to have, an absolute monster weekend just to get himself going. It wasn't like he was off to a bad start. It just felt like he was leaving a little bit on the table, and that if he could really get going, this offense can really get going, and that's exactly what happened. He went out and he balled out in Baltimore. But there's a lot of things to talk about Stan early on. You want him to get off to a good start like this. You knew that last year was a down year, an aberration. We know what he's capable of. We know he's one of the strongest. Well, he is the strongest hitter on planet Earth. He's one of the best hitters on this earth. But with that being said, Sam, tell us how you're doing today, my friend, and tell us, what did you see from Stanton this weekend that was super encouraging?
I'm incredible after this weekend that my boy had. I was there to see it in person. The home run on Saturday night was absolutely electric. You guys know I was up in my seat screaming like it was nobody's business about my boy. So it was a good time. He had an incredible weekend. It was really nice for him to finally see him get back on track. He didn't necessarily have a terrible start. I think he started the weekend with a 111 WRC+. It's back up to 151 now after he went 5 for 12 this weekend with a home run and a double. So it was really nice to see. And something that you mentioned pre-show is this guy's not striking out. He's striking out 11% of the time right now, which is awesome because there are times with Giancarlo Stanton that we will see uncompetitive ABs where he will just swing at sliders at the dirt, just stupid pitches. And this weekend he was like a ton better. I'm not sure if it was the Orioles pitching or if it's just how great that he was, because really before this weekend everybody was clicking on all cylinders offensively. Realistically, when you look at that top 5, top 6, everybody was playing well. Stanton was the one guy that was kind of leaning off a little bit, but he was the guy that really stood out this weekend. Him and Aaron Judge showed the 2 home runs yesterday, which was awesome to see. But Stanton really is, when we talk about this lineup and who drives this lineup, we talk about DJ LeMahieu a lot, and he's, the top guy. He's the tone setter. He gets on base a shit ton for this team, right? Giancarlo Stanton is that other guy, because when we take a trip back to last year, they both kind of got hurt relatively at the same time, and this team fell off a cliff. So really, if both of those guys are going at the same time, this team is unstoppable. This offense is unstoppable, and Stanton is the key factor in this lineup. If he's raking, then this team is playing well, and it's awesome to see that he's finally getting it going now in the early goings. And I'm excited because he had an incredible weekend, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things, if you look at, again, I talked about this on that episode in which we talked a little bit about Stan. We talked about him as one of the guys, that we looked at to, get off to a better start or to, have a pretty strong road trip. I mentioned projections, right? Projections don't really like older players, right? But Stan is an anomaly. And of course he's an anomaly. I mean, he's always an anomaly. Steamer's up to a 136 WRC+, but the big one here, the Bat X at a 143 for the rest of the season. Could you imagine if you get a 143 WRC+ for the rest of the season from Giancarlo Stanton? You couple that with the hot start you've got from Aaron Judge. You couple that with, Gleyber Torres is playing well. LeMahieu's hitting the ball harder than he's ever before. You feel like Volpe's going to turn around at some point. Cabrera's had some big hits over the weekend, right? Now you start looking at this lineup. Rizzo as well. I mean, I feel like Rizzo always kind of gets just like left behind and all this stuff. He's always just Mr. Consistent. But, you now start to feel like your lineup has an identity. And as you mentioned, yes, everyone in this lineup is important. Whenever your name is on that lineup, you are an important part of this team. You're an important part of what the team's going to do that day. From the Franchi Corderos of the world who just kind of come out of nowhere to the Anthony Volpes, the rookies, and then your captain, Aaron Judge. Everyone's important. But as you mentioned, Giancarlo Stanton really feels like he separates this team from a good offense to an electric offense. And as you mentioned, that wasn't just a home run he hit. That was a missile. That was an electric home run. I feel like when you watch Giancarlo Stanton go yard, you got to jump out of your chair. That was a jump out of your chair shot. He absolutely tattooed that ball. And if you remember in that game, Brito starts off the game a little shaky, some batted balls that maybe shouldn't have been hit, some soft hit contact, a run scores. He's able to anchor it down. The Yankees get the ball rolling, and Stanton just absolutely crushes a baseball. They bring in Austin Voth just so that Stanton doesn't have to face the starting pitcher, Tyler Wells, or not Tyler Wells, excuse me. I believe it was, I forget who exactly it was, but I know that they bring in Voth just to face Stanton, specifically for that one reason, and he goes yah. He crushes a baseball, right? It doesn't matter. It does not matter who you bring in. It doesn't matter what you do. Giancarlo Stanton's going to go yard. Giancarlo Stanton's going to crush. But, when you look at this Cleveland series, he's had some pretty big home runs in Cleveland as well. If you harken back to that wild card series, even in 2021, I remember he got off to a slow start and he just went off in Cleveland. That's a good pitching team. That's a pesky team. That team will make you claw your eyes out in 2-1 game, 3-1 games. What do you think Giancarlo Stanton has to do this series? Do you think he's going to have another big series? What do you think he has to do to guide the Yankees to victory against the ALC Central champions?
Well, this is a Cleveland team that has incredible pitching. I think we're going to see Shane Bieber tonight, and obviously that's a big one. It's a 3-game set, so I would like for him to carry this momentum into the series. I think they're relatively righty primarily, so we'll see a lot of the lefties this series, but I think Stanton will yet again have another, great series against his team because, like you mentioned, in the playoffs last year, he was awesome against Cleveland. And then, even in years past with the Yankees, he's been awesome against Cleveland. So I think he's going to just continue this hot start, man, and it would be awesome for him to get off to this start that he kind of had last year as well, right? He was an all-star starter in the outfield for the Yankees, and he had the great all-star game and that kind of stuff. If he can just carry that momentum through, stay healthy the entire time, this team will click on all cylinders. If he's not in this lineup is not clicking how it should be. And in the early goings, he's been that X factor. Not even necessarily X factor, but he's been the guy that's pushed this lineup to its limits. We've seen incredible offense from this team so far, and I feel like in previous years, we are so used to seeing a Yankees team that the offense will kind of go dead at times, and we won't see that, right? We kind of saw that in the Philly series in the second game when Herman was on the bump. We literally could not hit the ball against Matt Strahm, of all people, right? But other than that, this offense has been awesome, and for Stanton to keep it going during this series would be huge, and really for all of the guys, I think it would be awesome. So I think that he's going to push on. I think he's going to have another great series in Cleveland.
I 100% agree. As you mentioned, that Matt Strahm game kind of sticks out as a sore thumb because, you kind of felt like you had everything going. Matt Strahm's a lefty. He's not a starting pitcher. He is a reliever, and he just shoved against the Yankees. That was extremely infuriating. And this team's a slow starting team usually, right? I believe I saw this stat. This is their best start since 2010 for a 9-game start, which is kind of incredible because, this isn't like a team that's missed the playoffs a bunch since then. So I was a little stunned looking at that. Stan's also another guy who, he doesn't really perform very well in the cold weather. Not in April at least. In October cold weather, that's a different story. But to start off the season, he's usually a little cold. Usually, like 2021, 2022, both those years, I believe, on April 10th exactly, or about 10 games into the season, he had a below 100 WRC plus. This is different, right? It feels like, and you mentioned this kind of feels like a different team. And this is a weird start because in a sense, like the Yankees have gotten off to a really good start. Stanton, Judge, Rizzo, they've all gone to a really good start, and it's not like making headlines per se. It's kind of just been like nonchalant. The Yankees have just been playing some really good baseball. You talked about this in your recap on TikTok, which you guys should definitely check out. Those are really fun. Your Yankees beat the Phillies, the Giants, the Orioles in series. Those are teams that all finished, with 80-plus wins last year. All teams that are looking to make the postseason this year. It's not like the Yankees just went in and beat up on, like, the Athletics or, I'm not trying to diss the Rays or anything like that because 9-0 is 9-0. But it's not like, you went 6-3 against teams that, aren't good at baseball. These are some pretty solid teams, some pretty good competition. Giancarlo Stanton's facing some pretty good pitching. Logan Webb's a dog, right? That's a pretty good pitcher. Ross Stripling last year was pretty damn good. I'm trying to think. The Phillies, they had Aaron Nola out there. Aaron Nola is a freaking stud. That dude's going to get paid. The Orioles have a nasty bullpen. Again, to see Stanton doing this early on, I think is an encouraging sign. I know he didn't like how last year ended for him. He didn't have the best postseason in the world. He had a couple big home runs, sure, but it wasn't his best postseason. He didn't finish strong to end the year. He wasn't healthy. It wasn't Giancarlo Stanton's year. But this year, he's healthy right now. Things are rolling for him. He's playing the outfield as well. We talked about this a little bit in the pregame. Kind of like the Yankees have a lot of issues with versatility because Stanton is a permanent DH, but with him able to play the outfield more, what do you think this opens up for the lineup? How do you think the Yankees can utilize his outfield versatility going forward?
Giancarlo Stanton playing the outfield completely changes this lineup because we talked about a preseason, right? Our opening day roster that we had talked about so many times and how we're going to align and stuff like that. And we saw Stanton start in right field. And what that opened up is somebody can DH, right? There was the big issue during spring training. Are they going to play Donaldson? Are they going to play LeMahieu? Are they going to play Gleyber Torres? Because really at the time with Stanton full-time DHing, there was only room for two of those guys. So now with Stanton being able to play the outfield more, and I don't think he's going to be out there full-time, he'll probably get 2 or 3 days out there a week. And he's looked comfortable out there. He hasn't looked like a scrub in right field. He's actually looked pretty good. So with that ability, then they can play those three guys. And granted, I don't know if I want to see Josh Donaldson playing every day, but that just opens up a spot for somebody else to be able to everyday DH if Stanton's playing in the outfield. So it really just makes the Yankees lineup deeper and more versatile if they're able to do that on a day-in, day-out basis, a couple times a week, whatever. Because I know you want this guy to stay healthy, and that is the key factor for this team is him staying healthy. because if you can DH him a couple times a week, keep him healthy, maybe play him in the outfield, get those legs moving a little bit, this team is going to be golden. It's going to be incredible. So I think him playing in the outfield is probably one of the key factors that this team has. And it just makes the lineup way deeper, way more versatile, because you have so many guys that can play in that DH spot and don't have an issue with it. We saw Gleyber Torres already do it a couple times this year. So I think that it just makes the lineup incredibly deeper, and that's probably something that they need to do even more now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. And, if you look at, there's a little bit of a log jam in the infield, as you mentioned, not necessarily that you want to see Donaldson starting every day, but the Yankees do want to see what they have in Donaldson. And I kind of understand that. He has a good spring training. You want to know what you have in Donaldson before you make a decision on him going forward. It's not like you have a multi-year commitment to him. We've talked about this before. The Yankees can kind of just DFA him if it's not working and not really, they're going to have to pay him, sure, but you'd rather pay him for him to be off the roster than pay him to have to play every day if he's hurting you that much. But also kind of, and I don't want to look too far ahead here, but, the Yankees are probably going to be buyers at the trade deadline. If there are guys that become available, that aren't great on the field or, need days off, you can go out and do that. You can make a trade like that and say, hey, in the postseason, we could put Stanton in the outfield and we could put this guy at DH if need be for a game or two. Another thing this opens up is, when you're facing a lefty, you can go really heavy right-handed, or you can play to advantages. You can have, okay, the Yankees are facing a lefty. Let's go Stanton, Bader, Judge in the outfield. Let's DH, I don't know, maybe let's say Donaldson is having that type of year where he's hitting left-handed pitching well, DH a Donaldson or DH a LeMahieu or DH a Torres and let the infield play out. When Peraza comes up, because I imagine he's going to play a role on this 2023 team, you can put Stanton in the outfield. Now that DH spot's open up, you can have Torres, Volpe, and Peraza play together. These are all things that, the Yankees are going to have to think about at some point. Maybe not right now, but down the road, at some point during the season, these are going to be questions they're going to have to answer. Or even an Andre Chaparro. I mean, look, that's my dog. That's my guy. We know he's not the best fielder in the world. That's certainly something that's enticing. If he gets off to a hot start and the Yankees just need a bat down the road, they can certainly do that. There are a lot of things, as you mentioned, that opens up. And, a lot of people originally viewed Stanton as kind of a burden because of that DH thing, but I think it's not that Stanton doesn't want to play the field. I think it's just more so the Yankees want to be careful with him. If you ask Giancarlo Stanton, he wants to do anything he can to help this team win. That's something I think is huge, and I think there's a leadership aspect to Stanton too. Whenever he's playing well like this, I feel like the rest of the guys in the clubhouse, they feed off of that. When Giancarlo Stanton hits a ball 450 feet into right field, I feel like if you're in that dugout, it's kind of hard to not get excited. It's kind of hard to not get jumping and get going. I think that's what turned around the series against the Orioles. That first game was brutal. Clark Schmidt goes out there, he gets shelled. That's not good for him. That's not good for the Yankees. I imagine he's beating up himself. The Yankees come up short at the end there. The Yankees aren't able to get the job done with their bullpen. That's just an ugly game to drop. Stan goes out and he sets the tone for the rest of the series. He sets the tone in that third game as well. First pitch he gets, RBI single. Was it his best day at the plate? 1 for 4? No, but that sets the tone. It gives you a lead early on. These are the things that the Yankees need. I guess your final thoughts here, because I don't really have much else to say about Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, it's Giancarlo freaking Stanton. What do you think a hot start for Stanton can help this team do going forward? What do you think it's going to mean for April? And, yes, April games aren't, the biggest thing in the world, but they still matter towards your win-loss record. How do you think Stanton getting off to the start is going to affect the Yankees getting off to a hot start in April?
So, hot start for Stanton means hot start for the Yankees means we're going to see what we saw last year, right? We saw the 64-28 start that we saw last year, and Stanton was firing on all cylinders. Essentially, we would see a repeat of last year's beginning of the season because they had a historic start. They were on pace for 120 wins when, really both him and LeMahieu were in the lineup and just firing, and they were all good to go. So, I think that if Stanton continues this hot start, we're going to see exactly what we did last year. And granted, this team's pitching isn't even healthy. We're still without Carlos Rodon. We're still without Luis Severino. We're still without a ton of bullpen arms right now. We just lost Jonathan Loizaga. We're still waiting on guys like Tommy Kahnle, So I think if he keeps firing, this team's just going to keep going. And the hope and belief at the end of the day is that he's able to stay healthy for a full 162. Obviously, at this point, it's kind of inevitable that something will come up with this team and somebody's going to get hurt. That's just what happens in sports. But the hope and belief for the Yankees is that Giancarlo Stanton can stay healthy for a full 162 and we finally get him for a full year. And I just think that this team will continue to roll if he's on the field and is playing every single day and is healthy and is firing. And I'm super excited because if we continue to see this, we're just going to see a lot of winning baseball this year, Ryan. And I just think that he is the key for this team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You said I think that's the perfect way for us to kind of end things off here. Giancarlo Stanton on the field equals wins for this team, and wins for this team is exactly what you need. It's all about winning, right? And Stanton brings winning for this team. End of the day, I think he's the second best offensive player on this team behind Aaron Judge, obviously. End of the day, he's the reason. He's going to be a big part of why this team goes anywhere this year. But with that being said, we'd love to know what you guys have to say about Giancarlo Stanton. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Give us a take. Do you guys think he's going to go yard this series? Do you think he can hit maybe 2-3 home runs against the Guardians? Who knows? When he's hot, the home runs come in bunches. It's not just one every now and then. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6. I wish I could throw in the LeBron clip of not 1, not 2, not 3. But again, thank you guys so much for checking us out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you guys know when we post. We've got you guys with a bunch of Yankee content. You guys can check out our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course our TikTok page, which Sam is running, and there's a bunch of awesome content there. Funny content, a lot of informative stuff. You guys should definitely check it out. And of course, you guys can check out our Twitters. They're going to be above our heads, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.